All right, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joshua Weisel here in the Weather 225 Storm Studios. Take a look at your forecast for parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. This is the Ozark camera located in Holiday Island, Arkansas. This is on earthcam.com, and you can look up that feed 24 hours a day on their website. So that's a look at what we got with the cameras across the region. Now, something that's going to be a little bit of a change today in terms of the forecast is going to be the temperatures in parts of the area. So we're talking mostly parts of northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, or some areas may be a little bit on the cooler side. And by that, I mean there are going to be some lower 80s today. So it's going to be cooler than what we've seen in recent memory. It's not going to be, a 30-degree difference or anything by those means, but it is going to be at least a little bit more manageable for some of you who may not be a fan of the hot weather. So at least we're getting a little bit of a treat before you know it, we're going to be talking about the heat dome and everything along those lines and the hot and the dry weather. So at least we're getting a little bit of a break before we get into the full swing of summer. Otherwise, highs today anywhere from the lower to the mid 80s area wide today. The cooler spots, parts of southwest Missouri, northwest Arkansas, even into the River Valley. Now overnight tonight, kind of a similar forecast, maybe warmer by 1 or 2 degrees compared to this morning for parts of northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Overall, mid-upper 60s, lower 70s look to be the lows as we start your day tomorrow. Here's a look at what we've got in terms of the severe weather risk today. No highlighted risks according to the Storm Prediction Center or our algorithm, so there's nothing to highlight there, which is a good thing. But with the pop-up activity that we could see today, I can't rule out maybe 1 or 2 of those pop-ups like we've seen over the last couple of weeks where, it doesn't it's not a long-lived supercell. It's not going to be super long. It's not going to be super, high-end severe weather, anything like that. You get some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Maybe 1 or 2 of those reaches some briefly severe limits with, I'd say, hail up to quarter-sized, and then maybe some winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour. 50-mile-per-hour winds aren't severe. Once they start getting to that, 58-mile-per-hour range, that's when it's technically severe. But, gusty winds, that's kind of the strong level. Severe is 58 plus, so that's kind of the synopsis for what we could see today. Rain chances, I think they're going to be better further to the south in terms of coverage, but area wide today, pretty much everyone's got a fair and equal opportunity for a 20 to 30% chance of some pop-up showers. But not everyone's going to see storms, and certainly not everyone's going to see strong storms either. So we're not expecting widespread activity, but some greater coverage could be a little bit more likely along and south of I-40, where this is showing some better coverage. And actually, so far today, we've seen some showers. Future Scan's actually doing a fairly good job. I don't want to jinx it just because it's, it takes into account different things and it's not perfect. This area, for whatever reason, there's various reasons. I just don't want to, take up too much of your time. But the models don't like our combination of different microclimates, and when that happens, it doesn't do a great job of its outputs. Every now and then it does, but it's not always the best to use. Now, here's a look at what we got with the regional radar as of the time of this recording, and there's that activity that I'm talking about along and south of I-40. Now, the one thing Future Scan didn't really do a great job yesterday with was the coverage. This is fairly scattered activity all the way from Hot Springs, further into parts of the River Valley, making its way closer to Waldron, some locations in our southern counties at this time. So scattered showers, maybe even a rumble of thunder or 2 will be possible. And now let's take a look at what Future Scan's saying today. Now, it's getting a little bit better of a lock-on. I think by the time we get to this evening, maybe a couple scattered showers and storms in parts of the northwest Arkansas, River Valley kind of metro areas. And then it continues overnight. Then as we head into tomorrow afternoon, maybe some additional activity in the same spot. We'll have to wait and see what Future Scan says later this evening in terms of the overall coverage. But today, tomorrow, maybe kind of the same deal that we're dealing with here in terms of scattered activity, but not everyone's going to see it. So that's a look at Future Scan. Now let's get into the 7-day forecast. Rain and storm chances pretty much every day through Tuesday for northwest Arkansas. Temperatures consistently in the mid, maybe even some lower 80s as we make our way into the next several days. And then by the time we get to Wednesday, that's when those summer-like temperatures start to return. In fact, we're going to be back into the 90s by Tuesday in the River Valley. Again, daily rain and storm chances. Not every day is going to be a complete washout. Every day is different in terms of the timing, the overall coverage, rain totals. If there's a severe risk or not, it's going to be different depending on the day. So that's a look at what we've got there. Northeast Oklahoma, maybe a little bit of a break tomorrow. That looks to be a little bit consistent with the models, but keep in mind there's room to change that forecast. in all honesty, forecasting, it's not one of those things where you can just do the forecast and then that's it, and you can leave it for 24 to 48 hours, and then, the forecast is going to stick. Fun fact, behind the scenes, we update the forecasts numerous times during the day. In fact, if like most forecasts and stuff like that, they actually, us as forecasters, we sometimes change these as much as 3 times a day. Now, if it's just, a summer-like pattern, there's no rain and it's hot and everything like that, that's a little bit better where you can just kind of go with what the models are saying. But for these rain chances, there's going to be some adjustments as we head throughout the day today. So just stick around for the latest updates. Here's a look at what we got for Southwest Missouri. Maybe a little bit of a break today. I'm still leaving those rain chances right around 30%. Not showing the thunderstorm icon because not everyone's going to see it, but I think a little bit further to the west near Joplin and some of those locations, I think that's where we're going to see more activity by midday into the early to maybe mid-afternoon, and then maybe a little bit more scattered later this evening across the area. So daily rain and thunderstorm chances, that's a look at what we got with the forecast. Don't cancel your plans. We'll have the latest forecast, of course, throughout the week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have more coming up. If you like our media and forecast, be sure to support us today on Patreon. You can advertise with us this storm season and throughout the year. Contact us today for availability and pricing. Weather 225 since 2015.